Okay, today I want to talk to you quickly about something that's driving me nuts at the moment, and that is, as developers, we're not happy with what we have the whole time. We're actually constantly chasing things that are awesome and amazing, and we're trying to impress each other because the press impresses us, and I think it's not necessary. So I got to thinking about this watching a movie on the plane the other day, which was Pacific Rim. Anybody watched it here? Okay, good. You also wasted time and money. Because Pacific Rim is awesome. It's about a rift underwater that is going into another dimension. And from this other dimension, aliens are coming into our world. And aliens are evil, of course, because this is Hollywood. Because why would you talk to a sentient being from another dimension and have like ideas and conversations when you could just shoot each other or throw each other through buildings, because that CGI has never been seen before. And they get bigger and bigger, and they're more dangerous and dangerous, and the longer the movie goes. And we don't want evil aliens in our cities because they break things, and that's not quite good. That's why we build actually walls around our cities so these aliens don't come through, but actually these walls are pretty rubbish and fall down as soon as these aliens come in. So in Hollywood fashion, to battle these kind of people, what do? We build robots that walk like humans, because that's the best way to build a robot. And to fight aliens, what these robots do is fight them by boxing them, not like shooting at them or something like that, or rolling over them, or being like a tank. No, the best thing to build a robot is a robot that fights, like with fists and stuff. And they all look amazing and awesome, and they look like big bodybuilder types. And to get them onto the aliens, we have to drop them from helicopters, because that's really cheap and useful as well. So let's rethink the problem here. The problem is that we have a rift underwater where aliens come through that want to kill us. So how about we just mine that rift? Or we put some submarines there, or like some rocket launchers that just, as soon as something comes out of it, bomb it. As soon as something comes out of it, shoot it. Like, no, don't build a robot that goes there. But the problem with it is, that would make not a good 3D movie. And Hollywood needs 3D movies, because if we can't have 3D, we would have to apply things like a script, or acting, or like real camera work, or locations. And then we can't say that the pirates are actually a fault, because we don't make any money with our movies. And the biggest thing about Pacific Rim was that in the end, no matter how cool robots we build that are really, really amazing, you need humans in there. And the humans are in control, and they're in control in the most ridiculous fashion ever. They shout at each other, and they're basically punching the other alien and stuff. And you're like, also, that is beautiful, really ripped people. You never see a fat guy in a robot in a computer game like that. You know, why, if we build so much technology around it, the size of a flat, why does that person have to be a kung fu master and completely fit as well? Because the movie is targeted at 14-year-olds. And of course, the way they control these is by walking inside them. So, because you want to get really tired if you fight aliens inside a robot tank machine, much like every tank had a little thing, so you had to actually race in there to actually make the tank work, right? All in all, it was actually really silly. So, what about the scientists in there? What about the people that help them fight the aliens? They're nerds. They're socially inept. They don't get to know any people. They don't know anybody. And they all speak with an English accent and use things like my girlie and things like that. And that's just stupid. So let's go back and bring that movie back to the internet. So this is what it looked like, but we're talking about internet here, so in the end it has to go to cats. What does that have to do with our lives? I think our lives are garnered the same way. Instead of writing software, instead of making solutions, we have these press telling us that there's these super, super intelligent developers that make millions of dollars with their first startup, while we're spending our time fixing CSS bugs and wondering why Internet Explorer doesn't show the click button that we created. And these are daily frustrations that we have. Nobody understands what we do, but at the same time they think we're rock stars, so we have to deliver things. And as it says here, nobody notices what I do until I don't do it. We only get asked by people when we break things, and then we have no idea why we're breaking them actually. And our users are these really annoying people that use things the way they're not meant to be, like this lady using a mouse to control her mobile phone. While you're like, oh, it's a mobile phone, it's a touch interface. Oh, no, it's not. What? What are you doing? And users are terrible. We don't want them. Sadly enough, they pay for our products and they actually do the things that we don't do. And nothing much happens when we mess up. That's the other problem. When our websites break a bit, we have a little bit of an issue, unless you have these booking websites where that person will not be too happy with that seat. So what do we do with that? We have a constant call for professionalism and modern work workflow. As developers, we'll not be getting the attention from people that we actually deserve. We get stupid attention. We're like, you're the rock star, make that work. Oh yeah, you have a weekend, you don't have a social life. I don't care, just make it work. But we just ourselves now start to impress each other with things that we build for ourselves and that nobody else ever sees anymore. So instead of building cool things, we build scripts and stuff like that. I love that. Starting a website in 2014, install Node, install Bower, pick CSS framework, pick responsive approach, and at number 47, write some HTML. So another thing that people kept telling me, because the whole app revolution was happening, is that the web needs a container format for apps, much like you need a container for bananas on your bicycle, which is on Etsy. You can actually buy those. This is pretty amazing. So Christmas is coming. Banana holder, good idea. The state of apps on the web is a bit of a mess. This is the W3C website that explains what the state of apps is. And it goes on, and a bit of on, and a bit of on, and a bit of on, and actually there's a lot of things to look at, a lot of standards that are coming up, and that's great, but apps are to me not really what the web is about. I think it goes back to a problem we have as developers, that we think generic code is the best code ever. We want to write something, we find a solution, and then we make it generic. Then we turn it into a framework. Then we turn it into a library, because we find all the problems that might happen and try to assume them. This is a really good article about this, that every time you make code generic, you try to predict the future. And sadly enough, we're really shit at predicting the future. So a lot of times we put things in there that are just never useful, and we bloat our solutions that way. I caught myself the other day doing the same thing. When I fly to a conference in the morning, I pack my bag the day before. I pack my suitcase, I put the clothes that I'm going to wear the day on the flight on my suitcase, I wash my clothes, I do my dishes, and I get the rubbish out of my house. I live on the 5th floor, and I have to go down like the 5 flights of stairs, go through a coded door, go through a door that I have to open, go to another door I have to open to put the rubbish out. So when there's a flight at 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to do that in the morning. So I normally pack my rubbish together, put it down in the basement, throw it away, next morning just get out of the house, go to the airport, yes, I'm amazing. So I did this the other day, and I found like 3 bananas in my kitchen, and I thought, bananas for breakfast, that's a cool idea. And then I thought, oh God, so I got banana peels, so I have to bring the rubbish down in the morning. And then for about a minute, as a developer, I was thinking, you know, if I peel the bananas now, and throw the peels away and keep the unpeeled bananas in the, oh wait. It's not a good idea to have the bananas without the peels for a whole night in your kitchen, right? But as a developer, it made total sense for me for like a few seconds to like, it's more effective if I peel the bananas now than tomorrow morning. And think of the pre-peeled bananas every time you do that. The same way, we tend to basically knock down trees to get rid of the birds so we can build a nice birdhouse made from wood. And we do that all the time as well. We recreate instead of improving. How many build scripts are out there that are just doing one thing differently than the last build script? But instead of fixing that or writing an add-on to the last build script, we build another one. We give it a logo, we go on Hacker News, we're awesome. So we build the same stuff over and over again and compete with each other rather than building things that make sense. Let's make a static site in 2014. Static HTML page is a really cool thing. 925 different static page generators to choose from to write static HTML. Interesting. We add layers and layers of abstraction and tooling. We stack the things that we should not stack, and then we wonder when things get slower. And the real development process tends to look differently. Because as soon as we build these amazing things, we put content management systems on there, and people put images in there and videos and start using center tags and font faces. It's just awesome. And that's why we have a problem with performance. Performance is a big thing. There's conferences going on in performance and everything. You have to kind of look up a lot of stuff. And website obesity is not uncommon. Like the average website is 2 megabytes and 100 different HTTP requests. For years and years we told everybody that HTTP requests kill kittens, but they don't care. I think there's enough kittens around still. But it's like 100 HTTP requests per website. What's wrong with people? This is just amazing how easy it is to fix. And that was great the other day. The new LG watch, 54 megabyte, and that's a responsive website. 54 megabyte on the first load. I tried to look at it, it's still loading in my flat in London. When I come back, I probably can look at it. It's gonna be awesome. And there's no excuse, because we got the best tools out there. Webpagetest.org is an incredible website. I put the Codemotion website in there yesterday. This is what it gives you. It says you load, there's an F, there's an A. The F stuff you should fix, the A stuff, yeah, you should pat yourself on the back. And it gives you all the information that you need to fix the problems. And it gives you a great report about what's going on. So you see like what was loaded, when things were visible. You see the timings, what was loaded when. You see how many bytes have been loaded and how much went over the wire. And you even get a video showing you how long it took for the website to be visible and to be perfect. So there is no excuse of these websites that are slow when people, I didn't know it was slow. No, we have these great free tools that you can look at. And if you want to know that in detail, there's a great talk by Adi Osmani from JSConf this year in Berlin, where in like 40 minutes he rewrote the JSConf website and made it from like 50 seconds down to 1 second loading. And he just used the tools that he explains there and open source tools for using it. You can do that as well. I mean, just fixing things is a very, very important thing. Sadly enough, all these tools are actually after we messed up. So why don't we mess up in the very beginning? So we have amazing tech available for us right now, like for example, detecting that this is Skrillex when you just put the thing in there. So what do we have? Browsers are consumption and creation tools. And when I started as a web developer, we had Alert. That was all we had for actually debugging things. Nowadays, every developer browser has a developer editor in there. You have visual CSS editors, you have color pickers, you can actually visually change the Bezier curves. It becomes a consumption and a creation tool, and that's just the browser. You don't need to download the 4 gigabyte of SDK to start developing. The thing that you consume the web in is also the thing that you build the web in. There are even emulators and remote debuggers of connected devices. This is Chrome here that allows you to simulate all kind of mobile devices and simulate different speeds. And throttling down your speed in your office when you're developing is a very, very important thing, because nobody has these fast connections going into their computer, and you find an amazing amount of bugs just by throttling your connection. So what about outdated browsers? What about the Internet Explorer 6 users out there? Of course, there's a problem that new technology is not available for old browsers, but also users of old browsers are not used to beautiful things. Don't confuse people that have to use Internet Explorer 6 with animations and beautiful stuff. They don't want that. They just want to go there and do the same thing they did the last 10 years. The Financial Times came up with a great idea to have a polyfill as a service, because polyfills were always the solution to fix things for older browsers. You basically tell the browser, okay, same API, I do some evil things under the hood to make that old browser do things. And then you used lots of polyfills and never replaced them when it wasn't necessary anymore. As polyfill as a service as a CDN, that gives you polyfills for all kind of JavaScript and CSS functionality, and it has a nice lecture about which browser is supported and which one isn't. And when that browser is not going to be in use anymore, the polyfill doesn't get included. So we don't have these like 53 megabyte of unused stuff anymore. So take a look at that. I think it's a very clever idea from the Financial Times. We also get very flexible in our layouts. This is a Flexbox demo that shows you how to do like 3 buttons and a input box that is as wide as the screen with a label next to it that might be in different lengths as well. And you can order them around with Flexbox really simply as well, just by changing the order in the CSS. And it's also a responsive design, so when it gets smaller, it just pops the input boxes on a new line and keeps the 3 buttons and the label next to each other as well. And this is beautiful. This has always been a pain to do with CSS. And now with Flexbox, it's totally possible. And this is the whole code that makes it work across all the browsers right now. That's a few lines of code. That's not that hard to do. So take a look at Flexbox. Take a look at what CSS can do for you as well. WebRTC, WebGL, WebAudio, and many more things are pointing to a high-fidelity web. I worked a lot with gaming in the last half year, see people like Unreal port their engine to JavaScript, do like web audio stuff that where you walk around in a 3D environment and the sound changes depending on where you are. These are all possible on the in a browser right now as well. WebRTC is probably the most important thing that's coming right now, which is not only video and audio chat in the browser like Firefox Hello has now or Google Hangouts already do, but it's a data-driven thing as well. So I can send data on a peer-to-peer connectivity between two computers without having a server burning up in between. So it's a very important part of making the web real connectivity between people. Another big thing, of course, is an offline web. We're offline all the time. I'm just paying for my traffic with Telecom in England right now, so I'm paying through my nose. That's why I'm sounding a bit weird. So making the things work offline is super important. If you package something up as an app and the app needs to be online, you've done something really, really wrong. Why should I download 100 meg, 50 meg of app just to be online again to use it? I might as well use a website then. Offline is important, and offline first is a very, very important stuff. Service Worker is now a W3C standard as well, and these are two videos by Jake Archibald explaining and showing as a demo what Service Worker can do. Yesterday, Chrome announced that they now have a debugger for Service Worker in the browser as well, so we don't have magical things anymore. And that's another big thing that is happening on the web right now. A lot of what we do in browsers is magic. We just basically put something there, it works, and we're like, yay! If it doesn't work, we're like, I have no idea what's going on here. But with Shadow DOM and web components, we now can tap directly into the browser and make our stuff render with the browser rather than having to work against it in terms of performance. Shadow DOM basically gives you access to like, what is the HTML of that video element that I just put in there. So this volume control is not magic, it's not Flash, it's actually just a div and a range controller or something like that. I love that. What could be the code of that door? So the state of the componentized web, of web components and things, is another big thing out there. So again, this is a great article where you can read that. I'm going to publish the slides later on once I'm not connected with two tins and a wire. And I'm going to write a blog post about the details of it as well. But this one goes into massive detail about what web components are, how they work, how different frameworks work with web components. And again, we build lots and lots of frameworks that we now rely on rather than making the thing work in the future. So what can you do all about this when you realize that you're not a photo reporter but a web designer? Well, first of all, don't be afraid of new technology. Try it out. If it breaks, make it break that it actually not shows. You know, there's no problem if a browser doesn't support something new. There's a problem if you rely on it. If you put an if statement around the thing, the browser doesn't show it. Nobody needs to know. All good. If you don't have the if statement around it and you tell people to download another browser, you dilute it. Nobody downloads another browser for you. I'm sorry, and nobody should like the browser that you like. The whole thing about the web is that the choice is at the end user. They can do whatever they want, like the lady did earlier with the mouse and her mobile phone. We're delivering to people on the web, and we're delivering to their environments rather than forcing them into new environments. So let's aim to build some solid foundations of small bits of working code. Don't build the next framework to end all frameworks because people will not use them. I worked on YUI for several years. YUI is now being put out to the community, as it's called, or farm sourcing. You know, it's like it's working with the other APIs on the farm and it gets fed nice things and they sing to it. It's not like it's abandoned by a company at all. Today's tech is not going away. There was a great article, a great quote by somebody from Spotify when somebody tried to say like, ooh, why isn't Python in the browser because JavaScript sucks? Hating JavaScript is like hating the internet. The internet is a cobweb of different technologies coupled together with duct tape, string, and chewing gum. It's not elegantly designed in any way because it's more of a growing organism than it is a machine constructed with intent. I always saw the internet as a medium. Radio, television, internet. It's not software, it's not just engineering, it's actually building things for people to use, to do things with, to send to their friends and do other things with. That's a lot of do's. But well, you know where I'm going with this. It's not a software, it's not an engineering task. The internet is a social thing to me, and it's a social medium for me. So it's built to last as well. Paul Backhaus from Google. If you build a web app today, it will run in browsers 10 years from now. Good luck trying the same with your favorite mobile OS, excluding Firefox OS. And Microsoft showed that when they released their website from 20 years ago, and it still works in browsers nowadays. the packaged app that only works in the resolution of that one phone that's cool this month will not do that. And that to me is a step back in software. Software on the internet was a thing on demand. Software on mobile is like a packaged consumption device that you consume and throw away and get a new one out there. And that to me is icky. I don't want to throw things away. I want to reuse them. What I said right now is if you enable people worldwide to get a good experience and solve a problem they have, I like it. The technology you use is not an important part. How much you lock them in is. Don't lock people in. Don't say you're the one solution for that. So the more you can make an API, the more data-driven you can make your app, the better it will survive in the future as well. This was an ad for Lego when it came out in Denmark and always advertised with red-haired children. What can do now is actually share. And I wished when I started as a web developer I had the tools that we have right now, like GitHub, JS Fiddle, JS Bin. All of these things are available to us, and all of these things make sense to use instead of explaining. The amount of emails that people send to each other, like, I'm trying to do this and it's not working and it's doing that, and then there's misunderstandings, and then people question each other's sexuality, and people actually, it's getting messy really, really quickly. Whereas if you just write the code that's broken and you show people and ask them to fix it for you, then you have no problem with that. And out of a sudden you have code that works and you can share with other people, and there's no better learning than doing. Talk Live, this is pretty cool as well. It's Together.js, it's a WebRTC client that allows you to have two different cursors and code together in an editor and have a chat client next to it where you chat with each other, so you don't need to use actually two different apps for that, but you can do it directly in the same tool. That is included in JS Fiddle as well. So if you go into JS Fiddle and you press the collaborate button, you have an audio chat there where you can actually talk to each other over audio while you're actually coding with each other, and you show each other the code. Incredibly good for job interviews, because you know that person can't cheat because everything is live. And it's a very, very simple way to explain things to people, what's going on, and you've got these two cursors chasing each other. And don't forget, the humans around you are the driving force. You can build these fighting robots, but in the end there's going to be people in there controlling them. And I think we're concentrating far too much on technology. We're concentrating far too much on impressing each other with technology. That's why people are hating each other. That's why depression is on the rise. That's why people don't care about each other. And that's why it's really hard to build a diverse workforce. So don't just try to beat each other who's the better coder. Thank people from time to time. Just send them a virtual hug, and that's that. There's nothing better than just getting an email that says from time to time, thank you for your stuff. And that sounds hippie-ish, but it's actually amazing how much it will help you, and how much it will help you later on when you want to have a job in that company and somebody else already has a good impression from you. I look at GitHub not to look at your code. I also look how you deal with forking requests, how you deal with comments, because then I know how much of a team player you actually are. And that's all I had, so thank you very much.